Hi guys, and welcome back to Afrobeats Unfiltered, episode 4, where we'll be discussing the hottest topics in the world of Afrobeats. Right, let's get straight into it. Hilda Effiong Baci, aka Chef Hilda, a Lagos-based chef, has now broken the longest cooking marathon. So there was a cooking marathon set by Lata Tondon in 2019. She's from India and she cooked for a record-breaking 87 hours and 45 minutes. Lord knows how someone can even cook for 87 hours. Me cooking for 10 minutes, I'm ready to just call up and get some McDonald's. So Lata was in the Guinness Book of Records and she held the title for the longest cooking marathon. Here comes Chef Hilda and she's like, I want to see if I can break this record. So she goes on a marathon. I think she was cooking for about 5 days, back to back cooking. She created 55 recipes. She cooked more than 100 meals designed to showcase the best of Nigerian cuisine. And it looks like she might have shattered the record. She did 100+ hours. We're still waiting for the Guinness Book of Records to certify this, but she's broken the record. She did 100+ hours cooking back to back Nigerian cuisine. The heat in that kitchen must have been immense because I could never. I mean, I could probably eat for 100 hours, but cook? Good on you, Hilda. She was a trending topic all week. It looked like the whole of Nigeria was outside that kitchen supporting her. Some of the biggest celebrities posted on their social media shouting her out. You had Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, Burna Boy, all showing their support for Chef Hilda to get into the Guinness Book of Records and win this for not even just for Nigeria, but for the whole of Africa. We were all behind her, wanting her to break this record, and she did it. Congratulations, Chef Hilda. So let's not dull. Let's just get straight into Wande Cole's new album, Legend or No Legend. I spoke about this last week. I said it will be out Thursday, the 18th of May. It's now out, and this man did not disappoint. I couldn't even pick a top 5. I was spoilt for choice. I was doing my first listens. I was going through and it was tune after tune after tune. I said, Wande Cole. I knew he wouldn't disappoint. But you know, when you listen to an album, there's always standout tracks. There's always a few tracks that are like, yeah, that's my fave from first listen. Then you listen to it over and over and then you get more of a feel of what the album's about. But on first listens, I think I have about 8 tracks I picked from his album that I was like, hey, you didn't come to play one day. You didn't come to play. Let's just talk about how this man has been consistently giving us hit after hit.
Follow me, spend mine, make it follow me, bumper to bumper. This beat make me do like Rick Charles. Want to be like that man, wanna spend that dough. Shawty go low, 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 low. Love me when you take that booty to the floor. First time we a fight them, just be like say make a bite them, no not to spite them. I go touch my brain, to T-coin. Shout out my lady, my team. You know I be loving, you walk out on you. You know you need this love, indeed. All my guys are ballers, all my girls are coming. All my guys are ballers, I know the girls. Can you sweep yourself? Can you turn me up? And I'm in the she said she like the boy. Baby girl, make you know the lie. No lie. Make it tell your friends, say they feel this guy. They don't want me the money to come my way. If them know, they know she ain't working. I don't think that she working. Tell Shorty better working.
Wande Cole is actually a legend. I'm going to answer that question. Yes, you are a legend, Wande Cole. He has been giving us back-to-back hits for maybe 8 to 10 years. Every year he's had a hit. So let's just get into my top 8, it seems. My top 8 tracks of Wande because it was way too hard for me to just pick a top 5. The first track, in no particular order, might I add, I really liked the track Sholma Gaba. That really stood out to me. We had a track called Genesis. Also another track on there called Don't Feel the Love. I really liked that song. Now let's talk about the tracks where he had features. He did not come to play with his features. He didn't have too much. He hasn't got too little. He literally has the right amount. So the first feature that I loved was with Wizkid, of course. One thing about Wizkid is he doesn't miss when it comes to featuring on tracks. He might miss in other aspects, but when it comes to featuring on tracks, he's gonna give what needs to be given. So the track that I loved is called Elibe, featuring Wizkid. Mwah. Yes. Another feature he had was with Fireboy. That's called Jabo. Sweet, sweet music. And then obviously the feature with the king, Olamide, Kepe Paso. And then the last track that I really liked was Come My Way. What I really like about this album is we're getting range. We're getting so much range. We've got slow songs, we've got party songs. He's given us different versions of One Day Cole. We've got the vocalist, we've got the party guy, we've got so much range on this one album. It's honestly a beautiful body of work. Now, this week there was this trending topic on Twitter, and it was comparing One Day Cole with Rema about who's the best vocalist, who's the best artist that brings the harmonies. And I'm thinking, instead of you people to be comparing One Day Cole to Rema, we should be comparing him to T-Pain. I was listening to this album and I was like, T-Pain, you remind me of T-Pain. One Day Cole is the African version of T-Pain. That feature that they did together makes perfect sense. Perfect. About Rema, more like T-Pain. So Just In, the album is #1 on Nigerian Apple Music charts. What did we expect? I think we expected that. This album is amazing. I'm excited to see more lead singles. I'm excited to see what lead singles he'll put out. I would love to see a video for the track he has with T-Pain called Street. I think that should be his next single. That will really show you what I mean when I say One Day Cole is the African version of T-Pain. Next up on the list of artists who released albums this week is none other than Joeboy. He released his sophomore album, Body and Soul, Friday the 19th of May. It features the likes of BNXN, formerly known as Buju. Don't know why he changed his name. Actually, I know why he probably changed his name, because it was too close to Buju Banton, but that's another discussion for another day. We have this Nigerian newcomer. Let me see if I can pronounce his name because it's the longest name, but the track he's on, which I'll get into a bit later, I love it. So I'm glad that Joeboy showcased this new up and comer artist called Odimodes Black. I'm gonna just put his name up there. He has Oxlade on there. He has an interlude with Oli Iken, which I might add is the funniest interlude. Love that interlude. He's got CK on there. He's got Tempo on there. He's got Ludacris. Ludacris is an interesting one actually because he's done a couple of features. I think he's in his Lil Wayne bag. There was a point in Lil Wayne's career where all he did was feature upon feature upon feature. And that's how he got himself out there. That's how he got himself known. Excellent marketing ploy. I know Ludacris has been in Ghana a lot. So I'm guessing that link up was due. Tracks are produced by producers like Tempo, who we know from Victoni Soweto, E. Kelly. We always hear E. Kelly's name all over tracks. We've got a lot of new producers that I haven't really heard of, like Dira, Titan, Young Willis, Timmy, and Kamina. But I can say all these producers came together and made beautiful music. Joeboy's album Body and Soul was another project where I really struggled to just pick a top 5. I have about 8 tracks that stood out to me from first listens because I was like, this album is so sexy. He must have mentioned that the themes for this album are love, happiness, all types of love. So romantic love, platonic love, family love. Joeboy is a sweet boy. He's like the Galdem sugar. He makes music for women, and I love romantic Afro beats. There was a discussion. Here we go again with Twitter. But a user tweeted and she basically said, "Are you lot really making love to Afro beats?" And other users in the comments were like, "Imagine making love to songs like Escobar, like one they called Escobar. You know, fast Afro beats. You can't make love to that. But this album by Joeboy, you can definitely make love to that. A few babies are going to be made from that album. It is so sweet and too sexy. But anyway, let me just get into my top 8 tracks. Once again, in no particular order, we have Hallie, have Slowly, have Check My Phone, have Normally, the BNXN. Every time I say his name, I always feel like I'm going to forget his name. I always want to say BXN, but his name is BNXN. Anyway, let me not get onto him for the change of name again. Better featuring Tempo. We have Chicken, Spice and Curry featuring Ludacris. That title reminds me of Ludacris's album. I think it was called Chicken and Beer. Back in the day, Ludacris had an album called Chicken and Beer. I had it on CD. I used to bang it out. He had tunes, but that title alone just reminds me of it. And when I hear Ludacris on that tune, I'm transported back into time when he released that album. Woman featuring Oxlade. I think this is probably my favorite. It's called Wet and Be Love featuring CK. Mwah, mwah, like thousands of chef's kiss, because wow, you're really romancing me with this album, Joeboy. You're really romancing me, and you've now collected all the other lover boys like Oxlade and CK to come on the album with you and just make this sweet music. No, excellent project, beautiful project. I'm excited to see where he goes with this album also. And also, how could we forget Sip, in brackets alcohol? That came out last year. That was a huge track from Joeboy. Nah, that song, yeah, that chorus, yeah, that had to feature on the album. Of course, we're gonna give that an honorable mention. But no, I'm really excited to see where Joeboy goes with this album, how he does, what his next singles are. I think we don't give Joeboy his flowers. He's done incredible since coming out a few years ago. We probably don't even give Mr. Easy enough props because it was Mr. Easy that discovered him. What a diamond in the rough. What a gem. Joeboy is truly a gem to Afrobeats music. I love him. Leading on from that, Joeboy will be in the UK. He will be performing 4 headline shows across the UK. He's got dates in Glasgow, June the 17th at Classic Grand. Then on June the 18th in Manchester, he'll be performing at Academy 2. June 24th, he'll be in Birmingham performing at Cocoa Bar. Then lastly, the big one, June 25th, he'll be in London at the iconic Coco performing. I feel like Afrobeats artists always start off in Coco, and then in a year or so we'll see them transcend to the biggest stadiums, arenas. So I hope that does happen for Joeboy. I see it happening for Joeboy. So lately there's been this discussion about who actually took Afrobeats across to America. Like, who was the American artist that really showed the Americans how lit Afrobeats has been. I mean, Afrobeats has been lit for decades. We can generally say for decades across Africa, within the UK, it's always been very popular. But of late, it's like now the Americans are catching on. Swiss Beats, he went on some podcast and he was talking about him and Alicia really took it off to the States. They were showing everybody Wizkid. But most of us know the true OG was Chris Brown. Wizkid's current manager, Jada Pollock, used to manage Chris Brown years ago, so they've maintained a relationship. Now she manages Wizkid, so she kind of linked them two together, and from there they've been supporting each other at each other's shows years ago. So if anybody has been riding for Afrobeats, it's Chris Brown. That is the one person we should give credit to. So in saying that, Davido went on a recent podcast, the Bootleg Kev podcast, and he did an interview and he was speaking about Drake's influence within Afrobeats. Obviously, we know about One Dance with Drake and Wizkid. People feel like that was the track that took Afrobeats to America, meshing the two sounds. So they feel like Drake may have been the one to really shine the light on Afrobeats. However, Davido made a point to say that Afrobeats was huge way before Drake. And it was. That's the thing. Because America is seen as the hub for entertainment, it's like before things go there, they're just seen as small. Because they have such a large population, when things do transcend over there, that's when it's like it's global. The whole world knows about it. But Afrobeats has been popping from P Square and to Baba. So Davido went on to say that Afrobeats, it was huge, but he will say that Drake did shine a light on it, but we're not going to give him all the credit, you know what I mean? Next in the news, we have Tiwa Savage, who has announced a date for her US fans. She'll be performing in New York on the 25th of August, the Apollo Theatre, which is a great move because this comes right after she previewed a new song on social media. It comes after her historical moment at the King's coronation. There's plenty on the cards for the Queen of Afrobeats, as they're deeming her. Lastly, for this week's news, let's talk about bad boy Timz, who recently had an album release party within the UK, a night called An Evening with Bad Boy Timz, where he previewed a few tracks from his upcoming album called Bad Boy No Party. That album is due for release Friday the 25th of May. But this news is more about the interview he did with UK-based Nigerian media personality Adesope Alajidi. They had a conversation where Bad Boy Timz opened up about being assassinated when he was 9 years old, him and his family. Bad Boy Timz recalls that it wasn't just a robbery, it was an actual assassination attempt that occurred in Lagos, as the assailant showed up in front of a car and started shooting sporadically. Now, fans across Twitter weren't so sure about the story, and one decided to call him out on it. Bad Boy Timz, he wasn't afraid to actually show pictures of his wounds, him patched up from actually being shot as a child. Now, that is quite a mad story, but we are just grateful he survived that and he's now here with us today. Guys, that's it for the news of the week, episode 4. Make sure you catch us every Monday morning for your latest Afrobeats news.